Hi, my name is Jayson Beaster-Jones. I'm a professor of music in the Global Art Studies program at the University of California, Merced. My research focuses on three different areas. The first is the music industry in India and the ways that the economic transitions of the 1990s affected that music industry. My second area of interest is in Bollywood films that are produced in Mumbai, India. What's really interesting about these films is that most of them have musical components to them, meaning here that composers have written 5, 6, 7 songs for each individual film, and that these songs are released in advance of the film. What's striking about this then is that the songs from these films actually become the dominant popular music of India and in a lot of other places in the world. My third area of research interest is in the relationship between music, memory, and aging, particularly for older populations of Americans. While I went to India a few times in the late 1990s, in the early 2000s, I was focusing on music stores at the time, and in particular, a very large chain of music stores that had been growing very, very quickly over the course of about 5 years or so. One of the things that shocked me about this is that you would step into a music store in, say, Bombay or in Chennai or in other cities, and it would be like stepping into an American music store, like a Tower Records or a Virgin Megastore. These models for arranging music stores and doing the branding and all of the fixtures and displays were actually modeled on international standards, to the extent that the folks who were putting these spaces together were paying very careful attention to what was happening in other places outside of India and trying to create what they called a world-class experience. My more recent research has actually focused on the city of Merced, and in particular, the ways that people remember the city of Merced through music. For the last few years, I've been conducting something called Music Memory Hours, focus groups with members of the Merced Senior Community Center. And we talk about the kinds of meaningful music that they've heard at various moments in their life that they associate with their childhood or that they associate with their parents or with their children. The ultimate goal of this is to get a sense of how people engage with music as they age, in the hopes that at some point we might be able to develop a method of care for caregivers to interact with people who are developing dementia. Music is not simply something that exists as entertainment, which is an idea that people carry along with them, but the music has a lot of other sorts of social importance that gets wrapped up in ways that are completely subliminal. So what I especially appreciate is drawing students' attention to songs that they may have heard 1,000 times before, but haven't really thought about what the lyrics or the styles or the other sorts of things that are present within the music, and opening their minds to the broad spectrum of all of the possible meanings, or many of the possible meanings that they might be able to take away from that, and the ways that these impact not only the way that they see the world, but also the way that the world sees them. One of the goals of my teaching then is to push students to think more critically about the sounds that are around them, not just the musical sounds, but the other kinds of sounds that they encounter. One of the things then that happens is that you're not able to ever close your ears again. You have to you have to listen to the world around you in ways that you might not have otherwise engaged with it, and come to realize that not only is the world not entirely innocent in the ways that it presents sounds to you, but you actually have the ability to change the sounds, to change the world in ways that you may not have been aware of before you began listening to it the right way. Sometimes in my teaching, I encounter music or different ways of viewing the world that I wouldn't have necessarily encountered any other way. So, for example, my understanding of hip hop is much, much deeper than it was before I started teaching here at UC Merced. One of my students asked me whether there was a kind of folk music that was associated with California's Central Valley, which forced me then to think more carefully about the music that's actually being produced here, and not necessarily the music that's being produced elsewhere and being listened to or otherwise consumed here. From this, I came to realize that in fact there is a vibrant music scene within the Central Valley that encompasses not only music in English language, but music in Laotian, music in Punjabi, music in Spanish, and other sorts of languages. And out of that, then I became focused on Merced as a place, and thinking about the various communities and their modes of music making that I may not have otherwise been attuned to before students engaged me on this topic.